And then under the same category called We Will Stand With You, they write, enjoying the 360-acre campus, you will live life with the residents. You will live life with the residents in the dorms, on work crews, in classes, during meals, in worship, and in recreation. So with this description, they are writing that there is no real way to distinguish yourself as different from the residents. So with this attitude and practice, what this does is that it confuses and blurs the roles, almost assuring that at some point a conflict is going to arise. There's going to be a problem at some point with a place being set up like this, because it quickly becomes unprofessional, as those you are trying to help begin to see you as a friend and equal instead of a counselor or a mentor. In any mental health facility, the patients and the staff are always separated in most regards. And that is so certain roles will not be confused. It's the same thing as having separate lunchrooms for teachers, so they don't have to go into the cafeteria and eat lunch with their students. It's the same as customers in a store not being allowed to walk behind the counters or go into the offices and security camera room, because some people work there and other people are customers. So the way they have it set up at his mansion creates a situation where the residents see the servant leaders as other residents, and sooner or later decide that they do not have to listen to everything they say. Or servant leaders being confused on when to intervene with residents' problems and when to call for staff. So this could lead to many conflicts and potentially huge problems, since most, if not all, of society has come to this conclusion, and every business and institution has been set up in accordance with this understanding. Then why has his mansion somehow missed this basic guideline? It could be because in Hillsborough, they are extremely out of touch with the many advances in human civilization, or it could be that the directors of this program know full well of all the problems that could arise if things are set up this way. But they do it anyway for some dark, experimental reason. Then the head of the Servant Leader Formation Department, David McHale, is quoted as saying, "I love being with and encouraging servant leaders in their hopes and fears as they deny themselves and serve our residents." So David McHale, head of the Servant Leader Department, is basically saying that he loves being with these entry-level, underpaid employees in their fears as they learn to deny themselves and serve a bunch of psychotic people that they are forced to be housed with. Then, instead of suffering through something like that for the Lord, David McHale writes that he likes to connect with God through music and taking nature hikes. So when it comes to himself, staff member at his mansion, David McHale understands what is normal and acceptable when it comes to a job, religious beliefs, or mental health, but only for himself, as everyone else can suffer for the Lord by working insane hours for slave wages while being housed in a mental institution. Meanwhile, you could find David McHale connecting with God by listening to his favorite songs or taking little nature hikes. So David McHale definitely knows what is normal and how people should be treated when it comes to his own personal lifestyle. But everybody else could suffer as long as it's up to David McHale. So in my opinion, the employment position at his mansion is the same as some sort of sick experiment where the staff and residents of his mansion can place a target who becomes a servant leader under the most impossible and cruel conditions. And then, like I've explained on this channel again and again, the military, through mind control operations, work to break the target and to prove that the directors and staff at his mansion know perfectly well what they have planned for any outsider unlucky enough to be hired as a servant leader. I quote them: sacrificially and compassionately ministering to hurting and broken men and women is the role of servant leaders at his mansion. In this 24/7, life-on-life, hands-on learning environment, you may feel like you've been thrown into the fire. You'll use all you've ever known and learned in living life and doing relationships. But very quickly, you'll come face to face with your own inadequacies, lack of wisdom, fears, selfishness, insecurities, and neediness. So the directors want to hire you for a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week, hands-on psychological torture session under the guise of a mental health assistant position, one that the staff there knows perfectly well is a setup. It's a set up to fail position where you'll be forced to feel inadequate, lacking of wisdom, fearful, selfish, insecure, and needy. Again, much like their residents, who they call broken, dirty, hopeless, unacceptable, rejected, unloved, and unlovable. So if you were not like this before you got hired as a servant leader, the staff and directors at his mansion will definitely make you feel like a broken, trauma-based mind control victim by the time that you are done there.
Thank you for calling His Mansion Ministries. Please listen to the following options. If you know your party's extension, press *8. For admissions or your weekly check-in call, press 1. For the finance office, press 2. For all other inquiries, please press 0. Thank you and have a nice day. Your call is being transferred. Monica Church is not available. To leave a message, wait for the... Mansion Ministries, this is Monica.
Hey Monica, how are you today?
I'm good, how are you?
Good, my name is John, and I have what is called a drug and alcohol coach certificate. And I got that a few years ago after attending a class in Stamford, Connecticut. So I found your location and I got the website up here. And you have a very nice website. I enjoyed looking through that.
Good.
So I see here it says Servant Leader Program.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me, is that other people that go in as residents, or is that something different?
The Servant Leader Program it's separate from the resident program, but it's typically a year-long commitment, and the servant leaders live in the dorm with the residents, and they're just walking alongside them throughout the residence year here, but there's also classes that the servant leaders take, and so it is a program, but it's separate from the resident one.
So what qualifications do you need to become a servant leader then?
Well, there's an application that you can fill out. Did you see that on the website?
Yeah, I downloaded that already. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, so I would fill that out and send it in.
Okay, so I have just one other question though. The servant leader program, will they be working with the residents when they go in there directly, or will there be a time where they have to be trained how to deal with the residents first before they actually have time counseling and walking with the residents?
Well, the servant leaders aren't counselors, so they're not in a counseling role, but they are living and working and they're walking alongside the residents. So they're not expected to be counselors, but they're serving in the way that they're doing life with them. And in the application process and during the interviews, there would be space for, I guess, like more explanation of what it would look like to be a servant leader. So during the interview process, you would be interviewed by the servant leader formation director, and he would be able to answer more questions. But yeah, it's not a counseling role, so that's not an expectation.
So does it happen though that sometimes maybe somebody goes in there and based on the interview, they determine whether they'll be better as a resident or a servant leader? Like both of those positions have people with problems, drug and alcohol problems, that sort of thing. So the servant leaders, do they also go in with drug and alcohol problems or mental health issues too?
A lot of, maybe like 50% of our servant leaders have been in the resident program and then graduate and then come back and serve. So if if someone is interested in the servant leader program, then we're asking, that they're not. There is a difference. So residents actively involved in their addiction, wanting help with that, come into our program to walk through like a recovery program. For the servant leaders, there is, there's different expectations for that. That's not to say that they don't have struggles still, but there's a different level that we're...
I see. So after you do the residential program for 1 year, you could return as a servant leader?
Potentially, yes. And
so how long could someone potentially stay there in those two roles? For 2 years?
That's usually the length.
And then what do the people look forward to after they do their 2 years in your community? Where do they go from there?
That's really up to them. It's different for everyone. People move on and get jobs elsewhere or continue school. There's no guarantee, there's not, if you do those 2 years, then you're on staff. It all depends on if there's opportunities, if the person's a good fit. But a lot of times it's 50-50. People move on. People do different things with their lives. They're just, they're two separate programs. And then after that, it's really just case by case.
Yeah, it looks nice that you guys give the servant leaders like $400 a month, it says, plus room and board, so they're able to save a little bit of money. But I'm just curious, after the 2 years, is there some placement for them because they've been kind of living at your facility for 2 years and then on a salary of $400 a month? Where do you go from there?
Yeah, I'm not. We don't have a placement. So, like I said, people decide to move on, go back to school, different things. It's really different for everyone. And I think if you have more specific questions about this program, then I could refer you to someone who might be able to help you with a little more detail.
Sure. Who are they?
David McHale is our servant leader director, so he is in class right now, but I can send you to his voicemail, and you could leave your name and number, and then he could call you back and be able to answer your questions a little more specific.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you for your help today. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
David McHale.